Wednesday was the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. And I just want to tell you my story. So I remember going to school that day, and I remember being in band class. I played the trombone. And I remember as we were playing with Mr. Ryan, our teacher, who's now a good friend of mine. Hello, Jerry. I remember as we're playing, there's an announcement that comes over the loudspeaker from our then principal, John Smith. And we didn't really hear what he had to say, but he said something to the effect at the end of like, our thoughts and prayers are with all of those affected. And when announcements like that were made in school, it was maybe somebody in the district had passed away, an old teacher, um, but we didn't know that it was this. So we go back to playing, and here comes Mr. Angolia, who at the time was the junior high band director, and he didn't even like wait till we were done playing. As we are performing whatever song it was at the time, he said a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. And the crazy part about it is that with those people in band, we were at the World Trade Center just a few days before. And it was the Labor Day parade. It was something that we did pretty much every year. And we stood at the base of the Twin Towers. I was there with two great friends of mine, Christina Schwenker and Joe Vecchione. And I stood there with those two, and I said to them, we shouldn't take this for granted because people come from all over the world to see the Twin Towers. We should enjoy this. Fast forward to a couple days later, and this happens. So, Mr. Ryan, after we get the news from Mr. Angolia, we're kind of shell shocked there for a second. And he's like, all right, let's, kind of let's get back to what we were doing. And like 30 seconds into restarting the song we were playing, he cuts us off and he goes, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Go pack up your stuff. Go pack up your stuff and go call who you need to call. That's when it really set in. But I'm so eternally grateful that Jerry Ryan, who now I consider a good friend, had his finger on the pulse of what was going on at that time. And he knew that it was so much bigger than what was going on at school. That's when I don't want to say panic and hysteria set in, but the temperature was certainly raised. People started calling their parents. People started freaking out. Parents started coming and picking up their kids. I mean, we were on Long Island. It wasn't too far from the city. We still didn't really know what was going on. My dad was still at work. My mom didn't drive at the time. So I stayed at school. And at Central Islip High School, there was about 1,600 kids, I think, in our school. And by the end of the day, it was somewhere around 100. And I just remember walking around school, and it was the most eerie feeling I've ever had in my life up to that point. Even if I close my eyes right now, I can think back to how empty the halls were. I took the bus ride home, and I remember getting off the bus, and they dropped us off in a different place. It was actually closer to my house because there just wasn't that many people on the bus. So they pretty much just like dropped you off right in front of your house instead of at the bus stop. And I remember walking from the corner to my house and wondering if I was ever going to go to school again. I didn't know. I mean, it was 2001. I mean, I was 16 years old. You don't know. Got all these emotions and hormones running through you don't know what the hell's going on. I get home, come inside, big hug from mom and dad, and there's just, I didn't understand. No clue what was going on. More importantly, I had three of my cousins, Brian, Stephen, and Jimmy, that were there. They worked on Wall Street. And if most of you don't know, the cell service was very poor. So we didn't know if they made it out or not. Um, Come to find out that they did. But my cousin Jimmy, he hasn't been the same. 23 years later, he's still dealing with health problems. I mean, it's a freaking miracle that he's still alive. My cousin Jimmy's a fighter, man. I remember speaking to his wife Barbara at my mom's surprise birthday party a couple years ago, and the pain in her voice, talking about how their lives changed that day forever. Crazy. It's crazy shit, man. So I remember taking a nap and waking up and seeing all the members of Congress on the steps of the probably Capitol building, and they're singing God Bless America. And just in a weird way, right? Felt like things were going to be okay. There's a lot of things that divide us in this country, but when the United States of America comes together like they did after 9/11, that's fucking power. You look at how we banded together for all the different games that helped this nation heal. I knew I had to do something, and I know it wasn't much, and I know it doesn't take away the pain that we felt that day, but I was inspired to join my local fire department. I still have a lot of good friends that are there now, and I love them to death, and I thank them for their service. And I was in the Central Islip Fire Department for about 9 months before I went to college to be a broadcaster. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it for, a very long time, but shit, if I had the opportunity to wake up at the butt crack of dawn and drive my happy ass in my Saturn from my parents' house to the firehouse and hop on a truck and hit a hydrant so people can use the hose to put a fire out in my hometown, it's the least I could do. Um, but yeah, 9/11 is a day that I won't forget. And I'm sure if you watch this video, you can tell that it still impacts me very much. If we can learn anything from what happened 23 years ago, is let's try to find ways to come together. Let's try to find ways to bring out the best in people. Because when that happens, nothing can stop us.